Today we are going to be making and canning chicken broth. Hi everyone, welcome to our bubble. If you're new here, my name is Katie and welcome to my kitchen. Today we are going to be making and canning chicken broth. Well, today for you all, making chicken broth for me does take a couple of days. So today we're going to get it started. And what I personally do is I rotisserie chickens. And when we finish the chicken, usually I strip the chicken down of anything that can be made into chicken salad or thrown into soups. And then the carcasses get thrown into plastic bags and put in the freezer. And once I have about 4 or 5 of them in the freezer, then I will make chicken broth. So the first thing we're going to do is get out our carcasses and throw them in our roaster here. And this is meat, fat, bones. We want it all. Anything that was left. So I've got 4 here. Something else I do just to make the flavor better of my chicken broth is any old vegetables I need to get rid of, get thrown in there as well. New ones work fine, but today I had some celery that is getting ooey, and I had some carrots that kind of froze in the refrigerator. I got a piece of an onion. So we'll do that real quick. I'm going to cut off the yucky bits here. So if you get out an old vegetable and it's just really gross, I wouldn't suggest using it. Now that's why I'm cutting off all these gnarly wilted pieces. So we're going to wash this really quick. I'm not for sure about this piece, so we're going to get rid of it too. You don't want your vegetables to be too gross. I said we're throwing it all in. I'm just going to put the stump as the only thing in the gross pieces that I'm putting in the compost. So the rest of this is going right in our broth. And our frozen carrots, chop these up a little bit if I can. Yeah, not too bad. I like to chop them up a little bit just so it's easier for all their natural juices to come out, because we're not actually going to keep any of these veggies in the broth. We're not making soup. So we don't want to necessarily cut them up too much. I just want to cut them up a little bit so it's easier for them to absorb the water and to release. That onion is smelling. Any good flavors they have in them. Get rid of those. But the peel and everything is just going to go right in here. I'm just going to use the 2 outer layers. That way I can eat the rest of my onion. Now we're going to throw some water in here. Put in some pepper. And some salt. Now we're going to add our water. That looks beautiful already. Now that our roaster's full and we've got our lid on it, I've actually got it turned up pretty high. I've got it turned up to around 425. I want this to get to around a boil. And then I will actually turn the temperature way down to like 250 and let our mixture simmer for about 8 hours. Now, right before we go to bed around 11 o'clock, it is 3 o'clock now. So before we go to bed around 11 o'clock, I am going to set this in our back pantry so that it stays nice and cool through the evening. Our evenings have been getting down into the 40s, which should be plenty cool enough to cool off our broth so that we can strain it and get it in our jars tomorrow. Okay, everybody, welcome back. It is day 2. And actually, at the moment, I am just waiting on the dishwasher. So I do run my jars through the dishwasher because it cleans and sanitizes them and heats them up all at the same time for me. You can also put your jars in just hot water, or some people will put them on like the bread proof on their oven and warm them in their oven that way. I choose to use the dishwasher. It just kills 3 birds with 1 stone. So some of the stuff that I have, just tools, I have an extra pot to put the veggies and stuff that I cooked with my chickens in here because all of the waste will go to the actual alive chickens. I've got a ladle and or a measuring cup to scoop out our juice with. And then I have an extra little strainer because this will just make life a little easier. I also have one of the canning funnels, so maybe I won't make a huge mess, and we've got our lids here ready to go. I also have the rings in the dishwasher so that they can be heating as well. You do want to make sure at least your jars are nice and hot, or you stand a chance of them breaking in your canner. Our chicken broth is a low acid food, so we are canning it in a pressure canner. I've got the pressure canner ready to go. We have 3 inches of water in the bottom, and in case you're not great with that, 1 digit on your thumb is about an inch. I don't care how big or small you are, this is about an inch. It could be a little over or a little under. And so we want to go boom, boom. 1, 2, 3. So that's about halfway. And that's where our water is now. So once our dishwasher stops, we'll be ready to go. We are also, this is chicken broth, not stock. I thought maybe I would make that clear. My husband asked me last night what the difference was, and it's Chicken broth is you've still got meat and fat, and like I put some veggies in here to go with it. Where chicken stock, which I normally make, is when you strip it down and you're just boiling the bones. Chicken broth is a little darker than what your stock would be. Stock is actually more of a lighter color, and so we'll go ahead. We'll go ahead and take a look at this. So, but if you see the chicken broth it's a much darker color, and it's because we've got meat and bones and fat, and then not to mention there's a bunch of carrots in there, which will change the color. So this just, I feel like that broth has a lot more nutritional value to it. So that's why we have gone that route. And not to mention, it's a lot easier if you haven't stripped your chickens down. Okay, so now our dishwasher has finished. So I am going to start pulling jars out of the dishwasher and filling them. And they are hot. So I'm probably going to make a big mess. I'm going to try not to, but I can't promise. So we do want to leave around, I'm going to leave around 1 inch of headspace. Oh, stay there. Okay, so I have an emergency towel. This is one of my, we do not use this in the bathroom. This is one of my kitchen towels. I have big towels specifically for in the kitchen. Oh, look, that's beautiful. That turned out quite well. Something else you can do before you heat your broth back up to can it is if you put it in the refrigerator overnight, all that extra fat will float up to the top. So after it floats up to the top, if you choose, you can spoon it all off, and that gives you a little lower fat broth. We need to turn our canner on so that it is, this does have hot water in it, but we need it boiling. Also, I always forget to do this. If you splash a little bit of vinegar in your canning water, that will keep your jars from getting all cloudy, depending on how hard your water is. Our water's a little hard, but not too bad. I don't necessarily have a big problem with that, but I do like to add the big vinegar. It just, the jars look a lot nicer and cleaner in my pantry. Now, one thing to remember when canning is to make sure that there is no water or juice on the outside, especially on your rim. Some people actually take a little bit of vinegar to wipe it off with. And then because I've run these through the dishwasher, I want to make sure there's no little droplets of water in here, because that can get trapped in between the ring and my jar, and that little bubble of water will boil enough that it could crack my jar, and we don't want that. And this little bit of hair is driving me insane. I have a little butterfly. We'll just, I don't want to keep touching my hair. Okay. while we wait on the canner for a few minutes, I wanted to show you. Isn't it pretty? Almost looks like honey. Go on and fasten our lid down. And then here in Central Kentucky, we are at 10 pounds of pressure. But first, I'm going to wait until I see a little steam coming out of the top. Now, a lot of people have a little gauge that tells you when your pressure canner is ready and at what pressure that it's at. I do not have one of these. So what I do is once I start seeing a little steam coming out of here, I'll put my weight on, and then we wait for, there's a little valve right here that will pop up when the pressure has been established. So at that point, I wait, and then this, see if you can hear it, it'll tick, like tink. Anyway, it's very noisy. And once it starts doing that, then I turn my temperature down to about medium heat, medium to medium high. And the deal is I still want to keep a boil, but I don't want it to overboil, and because it will blow out my gasket, and then we have to start all over again. So a lot of people are afraid of pressure canning, which I totally understand. But these days, you really don't have to be afraid of it. Your modern day canners have a pressure release, and this thing will pop out and release a lot of the pressure before your pressure canner ever blows up. Okay, so we are starting to steam a little. I'm not for sure if you can see it. You can see it spit a little water up every now and then. So now this is when we're going to put our weight on. So at this point, I'm waiting on the pressure valve to rise. You watch, it jumps every now and then. Something else I have to look at, because I have a glass top stove, is to make sure that no water runs down onto my stove, because it could break the top of my stove. So every now and then I give it a wipe. While I'm waiting on my water to boil, I wanted to show you the difference between if you use vinegar in your water or if you don't. So this is a jar that, I don't know, yeah, here. This is a jar that came out of a batch that I did not use vinegar. So whereas this jar, I did use vinegar. So see, there's quite a difference, and our water is not that hard. So generally I just get like a white ring around the top, but that one looks pretty bad. I might have to wash that with some vinegar by hand, but just so you could see the difference in no vinegar, vinegar. Okay, so our little plunger has popped up, and now we are starting to tick. So, it's just starting to tick. It will get a lot louder. But at this point, we want to go on and turn our stove down to medium. On my stove, it's about 6 here. So I did have it up on high, and so now we've turned it down to, I don't know, it's about, what is that, like 6.5? Now we wait. So these are quarts. They will stay in the canner for around 25 minutes before we pull them off the heat. If you're doing pints, it's 20 minutes. Okay, it's been 25 minutes, so we're going to move our canner off very carefully. Because that's heavy. So now, bring you with me. So now we wait for this little plunger to go down, which generally takes around 30 minutes. And this will stop moving first. So I'll see you in a few. All right, guys, thanks for making broth with me today. We did end up with 13 jars of just beautiful honey gold broth, and it's just lovely. We did have to run the canner twice, but we got it all done. Hope to see you guys on the next one. Bye.